and welcome to episode 37 of the Luckycast. I'm your host, DeoxysPrime, and joining me on this edition of the anime podcast, we got Kenny.
Hello.
We got Matt.
Hi.
We got Frank.
Yo, yo, yo.
Live from his car. And we got Collin.
Amine.
All right.
Did you say live from his car?
Yeah. He's on his phone.
Okay, whatever.
We're working with it. He's here. That's all that matters. So, this is the first anime podcast we've done in a while, and this is our spring anime season wrap-up podcast. We're in the summer now, but we still got to talk about the spring season that just finished. Quite a forgettable season overall, but we still have a few shows we actually have to talk about.
Oh boy.
The first show we're going to talk about is a long-anticipated sequel to a rather popular anime from a few years ago that was handed off to a different studio to some interesting results.
Literally the 5th most popular show on Mal, apparently.
That is true. It's also one of my favorite shows of that year. We're talking about One Punch Man Season 2. I guess we kind of have to start with the fucking disaster of a production this is. Because, like, that's all anyone is talking about it. And, you know, for good reason. It's not good. It was, like, for anyone who doesn't know, like, the original was handled by Studio Madhouse and quite an all-star team of animators and directors and producers who basically made one of the best-looking anime of the decade. And how do you follow it up but give the sequel to JC Staff, who proceeds to take a big shit all over everything that was kind of special about that first season. Man, it was just depressing to watch every week. Like, this is still a show I enjoyed overall, but none of that had to do with anything about how this anime was made. But yeah, you look at, you know, from the, it wasn't just the animation, all that was the kind, that's obviously the thing everyone latched onto, but like, the direction, the sound design, everything about how this production was handled was just a huge mess.
Yeah,
Okay, we're done. Moving on.
Well, that's sad because what I've seen, you know, I watched the first episode of it because, you know, there was a lot of ambiguity around it. The trailers seemed to intentionally show pretty much as little animation as they possibly could to sort of give the illusion that, like, maybe it might be all right. But it seemed as though, and I don't know how this held up, like, for the later half of the show.
Not well.
They took great lengths to avoid actually showing, like, one character actually hitting another one whenever they could.
Yep.
I watched for 4 episodes, and there's a lot of tricks they're doing. A lot of like motion blur.
Yeah,
and like really weird. Like, it just looks almost like unfinished looking stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, everything looks very almost like puppeted in a way. It's just strange.
What was the original studio? I forget.
Madhouse.
Okay, because I didn't watch it. Okay, yeah, I didn't watch this one, so.
Yeah. There's an absolutely nauseating amount of ghosting going on, which is where the screen darkens and you just see a bunch of different images overlaying each other in an almost seizure-inducing way. If it was just a little brighter.
Yeah.
And it looks ugly every time. And so many times, it's not just ugly, it's wholly unnecessary. You could still have the lower quality animation standing in for this, and it would probably look better than the ghosting. In the final punch, the big final punch of this series, where he kills Elder Centipede, or whatever the fuck the subs translated it as, or it's not really translated. They did something with it. What did they call him, Steve?
I forget. It was some weird name.
Okay. Because the direct one was just Elder Centipede, which I guess they were a little bit closer to the Japanese name. Whatever.
Centichoro?
Okay, that's what they call them. I mean, that's technically what they were probably saying. That's probably what I think.
Wait,
that's what they were saying.
So wait a minute. That that guy that shows up in episode 4 is like the big bad?
Yeah, he goes away until the last episode.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll find that out later.
He's not necessarily the big bad, but yeah, he is the final major adversary.
Okay.
And by the way, don't expect anything like near the level of what they did for the last episode of the first season.
Oh,
Right.
It is like
yeah.
beyond underwhelming compared to that, which is understandable because like it ends in like the middle of the arc. Like this arc isn't even done by the end of the season, so that's kind of where they had to end it. But yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was.
I'm just saying that when he does that punch, there's just this split second of wholly unnecessary ghosting where everything just shakes around as he's throwing the punch.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking just why? That looks so ugly. And what's more is that the final punch has almost no impact when the other centipede disintegrates. You don't even see a shockwave or anything.
That was one of the biggest things I picked up off this whole season was like nothing has any impact. Like the sound effects are really bad. Like
oh god,
like the punching sound effects in particular have like no weight to them. Like I was talking about the sound design earlier. Like for whatever bizarre reason, like the music is mixed really low, so it has no emotional impact. Whereas like I felt like the music in the first season was phenomenal and really helped to like underscore what was going on in that show. And this is basically non-existent. You know,
is it the same composer?
I don't know. Like some of the music is, I don't know if it's exactly the same, but it's at least remixed. But it doesn't have the same weight or impact as it did in the first season. Yeah, it's hard to really point to. Like, I mean, I know
it's not the same sound director. I can tell you that.
Yeah, JC Staff is not a studio you go to if you're looking for extremely like flashy and superb animation. Like they make good shows, but they're not known for their animation prowess. So, you know, clearly that was going to come into play here. But, like, this was also kind of a production disaster from what I've been, like, able to gather.
Well, they delayed the Blu-rays. Like, they pushed back the first Blu-ray to, like, October or something like that.
Yeah, but that, I mean, they clearly can't fix what's wrong with this season. But, like, there was, like, one episode that had, like, 17 animation directors or some shit like that. Like, the ultimate sign, like, yeah. So it's like, you know, in addition to, I just don't I don't think they had enough talent to handle a show of this magnitude. Whatever production shenanigans were going on behind the scenes didn't help.
Well, what else have they done recently besides like Index? Because that was like fucking garbage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was that, but I mean, they do like a ton of shows. Like they have like 2 shows this season, I think. So, you know, they just have a big workload, but like I don't even think it's just that. It's just like I don't think they have the talent to do justice to One Punch Man.
He said Collin, he said that like it would like darken whenever like action scenes would happen or whatever.
Yeah, frequently.
Yeah, I think I asked DL about that one time, and he goes, "Yeah, it's like to prevent like people from having seizures because I guess it's actually happened in the past.
Yeah,
like, it's like big and flashy. Yeah,
I know they do that, but it's also it darkens whenever they do the ghosting technique, which is when all these images are flashing on screen at once.
That is like super fucking annoying.
Yeah, it's really really frustrating to watch. And also, I just think Steve might disagree with me here. But I think the material that they are adapting is just much weaker overall.
It is weaker, and it also didn't help how poorly they directed this material, because there's a portion in the middle of the story where you have like 4 different story threads going on at the same time, and the show just constantly jumps around between them with like there's no real logic to what scene they go to next. Some don't even have like establishing shots to tell you, okay, we're following this plot line now. It's just, you know, one to the next, and it was just like it just throws you for such a fucking loop. It's so hard to keep track of.
Yeah,
there are some moments I remember watching the episodes I watch where like something would happen. Like there's one part where Genos is fighting Speedo Sonic, and he just falls over, and I'm like, wait, what? And then it's because One Punch Man like hit him to stop him from fighting. I was like, oh, what was that supposed to be a joke? Was that a joke? That happens multiple times where like just and the thing is, there's like no cut in sound. There's no nothing. It's just he falls down, and then Saitama's there, and it's like, what? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the show has used that gag before, but when you fuck it up like that, it is difficult to tell.
Yeah, and it's just that, just going back to the source material thing, that this is adapting the manga, which caught up to the webcomic really fast, and the webcomic had been on hiatus for 2 years because one was writing Mob. He was only writing Mob that whole time. Mm-hmm. And so in the webcomic, it's, they have to bench Saitama here and there because obviously if he just shows up too soon, then the plot's over. And so when Saitama shows up, you don't really wonder what he was doing. It's like, nothing in particular, right? Nothing interesting. And so when it's like, okay, well, let's detail what Saitama was doing intermittently before he has to show up and do important things. And it's like, I guess it's nothing interesting. Who would have thunk?
Yeah, it is weird because, like, in terms of story, like, this isn't, like a particularly interesting piece of it. But the thing that I really like about One Punch Man and, One's work in general is, like, his character work. And some of that is strong, but I felt it was stronger towards the beginning of the season, where you're really, like, getting into King's character and, like, working in his new friendship with Saitama. And you introduce, like, new characters along the way, and you're fleshing out all the other S-Class heroes that previously had shown up and hadn't got much screen time before. It's like, that stuff is what I enjoy, and I still got that out of it. But yeah, there was just, like, it was honestly depressing to me that, like, Saitama was, like, not a part of the story for so long. Like, I know there's only so much you can do with his character, but I like his character, so it's just kind of depressing that he's not there.
Yeah.
And you're only replacing with all these monster fights that aren't really entertaining, because they're not really doing anything to elevate it to being entertaining.
Thank God for Garo, then, who is probably the most entertaining part of this whole season.
Yeah, it's weird because I went into the season thinking he'd be a bigger deal than he was, and they undercut that right away when he just first meets Saitama, and it's like, okay, I see what you're going for here, but they gave him like a genuinely interesting backstory that I think works. It makes a lot of sense in this kind of universe. Like, all the characters kind of have that, but his especially.
Yeah, and watching him is sort of like what you would imagine watching Saitama would be like before he became superpowered.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, still monstrously powerful, but also struggling constantly.
He did get his ass kicked by Dogman, though.
Oh yeah, he got his ass kicked by a lot of people. Just you watch Garo's ass get beat in over and over, and he still gets back up. Mm-hmm. When I read the shed fight in the manga, that was really great. I thought everything about that fight was awesome. Garo versus the whole group of heroes, and they kind of bungled it.
It felt like it got really dragged out here.
Yeah, it bungled it. They bungled it quite a bit. Particularly whatever the fuck Death Gatling shot out of his gun. I have no idea what they were attempting to convey with that.
I have a question about that, Collin. Like, not that specifically, but that part of the story. Because they strangely did not address this at the end, but what happened to the kid? Did he just fucking die?
No, he ran away.
Did they show that? Because I don't remember that.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, because they showed the shed blowing up. I was like, oh my god, was the kid still in there? Because there's no scene with him afterwards to, like, catch up with him.
There is, yeah. He runs out after Garo beats up all the heroes. He sees all the heroes are beat up, and then he runs away.
All right, I totally missed that. I would have, because I would have preferred, like, a scene at the end, like him, like, at least, like, reflecting on what the fuck just happened. But okay, that clears that up at least.
I thought you read the manga.
I did. I stopped specifically before we got to this part of the story, because I was like, okay, because they announced this anime like years ago, like a year after the first season finished. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for the second season to come out, and that was honestly kind of a mistake at this point, because who could really foresee something like this happening? But I'll probably go catch up on it now. But
yeah. I'd assume you read it just for Fubuki.
Oh, is there more of her?
There's more Fubuki. There's always more Fubuks.
That's good. Yeah, it's my whole time like watching the show. I was thinking everything I enjoy about the show is clearly just is just in the source material. Like this as an anime adaptation offers nothing. So it's like, why not
seriously
just
go read the manga?
material?
The manga's art is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's still going into, we still haven't. Well, we're starting to get really close to like for one's material is webcomic material, where it's mixing in a lot more now, alongside the supplemental stuff. But there are definitely a lot of fights coming up, and if an anime studio or if a studio gets a hold of this that is not top notch, it's going to be a major slog to get through when they adapt it. Because this next chunk of the story is just all fights. So, look forward to that.
It's honestly like depressing. Like that was one of my favorite anime of that year, and it's like how like everyone was fucking over the moon for this show, and they clearly took notice of that, which is why they announced the second season so fast. So I just don't understand how something like this could happen. Like if
I still expect season 3 next year, because one is doing the webcomic again. He started doing it again this year. Still kind of late on that, but I'm expecting season 3 and 4 the next year after that. I'm pretty sure they're trying to go for what they did with Attack on Titan, where just wait a long ass time and then do stuff yearly from then on.
We'll see. If it's more like this though, it's like, why even bother?
Go read the manga, really. The art's really nice.
For real, yes. Alright, Frank.
Yo.
You had some shows that only you watched this season that you want to talk about, so...
I did. So I know that Collin, in particular, was very curious to hear what I thought about the Gay Kappa show.
Did I? Did I do that?
I believe you were. If you weren't, I don't care. I'm going to tell you about it anyway.
All right.
God.
So, Sarazanmai is, or it was one of the more anticipated shows of the season by people who were fans of Kunihiko Ikuhara, who did, he's most famous for like Revolutionary Girl Utena, and some of the later Sailor Moon material, but he also did Mawaru Penguin Drum in 2011, and then came in hot after the fact with Yurikuma Arashi, and Sarazanmai was sort of his follow-up to that, and where people were really hyped about it in the Ikuhara fandom because Yurikuma was sort of getting this reputation for being very derivative of Mawaru Penguin Drum. Like, to the point where after it was first announced, it was, like, released under the code name, like, Penguin Bear. And a lot of the press around it set it up as being, like, very similar in Penguin Drum. And Sarazanmai was going to be, like, a relatively original work in comparison. And unfortunately, if you've seen Penguin Drum, you'll notice that Sarazanmai is just as derivative, if not more so, of Penguin Drum than Yurikuma is, which is a real shame, because while the ideas there are good, you almost kind of wish that he would talk about something else, because like he's clearly a talent.
Got a talent for gay animals?
Well, it's funny because Penguin Drum isn't explicitly, gay in that sort of context. I mean, Utena's got a lot of, homosexual undertones to it. And Yurikuma as well, obviously, is centered around it. But Sarazanmai has this very strange focus on assholes, and like it doesn't really know what it wants to be, if it wants to be like a comedy show or like something very serious. Because on the one hand, it's like, it's trying to be this sort of serious relationship drama, but every episode they turn into kappas and they fight against these like giant, like they call them zombies, but they don't really look like zombies. They're just like themed monsters. And they fight them by singing this Sarazanmai song and then jumping into the giant monster's asshole to pull out an anus ball that has like their secret desires on it or whatever.
What's the metaphor here?
What the fuck anime is this?
Is a trip. And not for nothing, it's got some pretty interesting ideas.
Only someone like you would watch this.
Well, 'cause I'm a big Ikuhara guy, and Penguin Drum and Yuusha are both some of my favorite anime, and so I had some pretty high hopes for it, despite the fact that like it's very crass, like more so than like his usual fare. But it has this identity crisis, and it's a real shame because there are some nuggets of interesting ideas there. Particularly with regards to like the two pop characters, because their backstory has the potential to be really interesting, but it's held back by the episode length because it's only 11, and he sort of just shoves their backstory off on us in like episode 10, which is very, very annoying because, you know, he's struggled with episode counts in the past. Yuri Kuma really struggled by being only 12 episodes. And even Penguin Drum probably could have benefited from another core. So it's tragic to see his shows go in this direction. Mappa was the other studio that was working on the show other than Track, who assisted Silverlink with Yuri Kuma Arashi. And from my understanding, Track did a lot of the work, which boggles the mind because Deroo looked so bad in its second core. And I was like, oh yeah. It's probably because, you know, they're busy working on, Sarazanmai. But from what it seems like, Track did, like, the bulk of the work. And Mappa really only had a hand in, like, 2 episodes or so. Which sort of boggles the mind. I guess they just put Mappa's name on there for the clout. Because I know Yuri on Ice, like, really hit it big in that sort of BL fandom. And they were like, oh, here we go, it's an Ikuhara show, and it's got Mappa on board, and Mappa did, Yuri on Ice, and that'll get people interested. But from what it seems like, Mappa really didn't do a heck of a lot. I would be a lot more keen on recommending the show if it had more in there to salvage. But because it's got this identity crisis going on, I really can't, give it, like, my vote of confidence. I would say if you're interested in, like, his sort of shows, like, definitely watch Penguin Drum, which aired in fucking 2011, and call it a day. But Sarazanmai was a bit of a stinker for me, unfortunately.
How are how is the comedy and the drama in isolation of each other?
So, like, the way that it works is, the comedy is really, really crass, and he wanted to set it up as, like, middle school boys so that he was able to, like, hit this sort of sweet spot where, he could be serious but not too serious.
Wait, sweet spot? You mean the prostate?
Well, it's interesting. Oh, God. The way that it works is when they steal these anus balls from the giant monsters, they are now forced into this sort of like memory leak thing where whoever pulled out the anus ball has one of their deepest, darkest secrets revealed to the other two. So, in the... Yeah.
Thank you, Frank.
So you can see where this has the potential to, like, increase the drama. It's like,
malfunctioning
like,
Kenny.
You pulled out the anus ball and it's like, I killed a man. And it's like, that's a bit of a bomb to drop after, you just pulled out anus ball. And, like, the balls, mind you, like, they all say, like, ass on them. And, like, the monsters are like, he's like a ball monster. Like, a giant monster is, like, like, he's got, like, a soccer ball head. And then they pull out his secret, and his secret is, like, oh, he's jealous of balls because he wants to be kicked by his girlfriend or whatever. And it's, like, it's stupid. It's really stupid.
It's some fucking high-class anime. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's so trash compared to his other work. And, like, not to say that, like, Penguin Drum doesn't have its occasional moments of crassness, but, like, this, like, takes it to an extreme, and it's really rough. And, like, it's just juvenile at some points. Which really shocks me because he has the potential to be so serious. But he really just, like, it's so stupid. Like,
It's like, hey Kenny, what did you do yesterday after work? Oh, I went on a podcast and listened to my friend Frank talk about monsters and anus balls all for
he's fucking
20
drunk,
minutes.
At least you didn't have to watch it.
I don't even know what show it is.
Sarazanmai is the name of the show.
What have we learned here today?
The anus balls make Kenny laugh.
We've learned that. That's true.
And they all sing the fucking Sarazanmai song before they pull out the anus pole, and you know.
Oh my God, Frank!
I think we got the point.
I legit want to watch this just to see what the fuck is going on. I think I had it downloaded at one point, and I was just like, nah, I don't feel like watching this. But now I do. It's got a fucking 7.76. Oh Jesus! I haven't laughed that hard in a while. Thank you, Frank. Oh, God.
So what's your other show, Frank?
Oh, Jesus.
The other show that I watched this season.
Please no.
Let's see. I watched JoJo, and no one wants to hear me talk about JoJo. I know that.
Please no, please.
Please. And Carol on Tuesday was the show that I watched the first core of, and it's a show that actually has a lot of heart put into the sound direction in particular. It's very, very cute. It's a Netflix show, so you guys in America probably won't be seeing it for quite some time. But
you live in America.
Listen. If you are a pirate and you have illicit means of doing so, I would probably recommend you watch Carol and Tuesday.
Are you watching this show in international waters?
Well, I justify it by saying I have a Japanese Netflix account, but that's not sub. So, that's my excuse.
Listen,
it's a fucking Bones anime.
Netflix knows how to drop the ball with anime in many ways.
It's fucking disgusting what Netflix does with the medium. Like, the show, it has English vocals. Like when Carol and Tuesday sing, they sing in English, and
whoa. Her name is Tuesday.
No, her name is Carol and Tuesday. Can you keep up?
Tuesday. Meanwhile, the black one is not named Tuesday. I'm just throwing that out there. The black one is Carol. Do not fall into that racist trap, because if you do, you will be disappointed. In a sense.
I don't know days of the week were popular among the black community.
What a weird way to phrase that.
Wait. Her birthday is December 25th, Martian year 32. What the fuck is going on here?
We need dedicated Kenny research.
Wait,
segments.
is this a sci-fi show?
I'm just on now, give this shit up, but I just don't.
I mean, it takes place on Mars, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Does that have any reason to take place on Mars, or was that just a stylistic choice?
It's kind of like WALL-E, where
oh my god,
Jesus, Frank.
Mars, and they have space colony, and all of the singers are AI or synth or whatever it would be. And Carol and Tuesday both dream of being traditional musicians. You know what I mean? And it's a Watanabe show, and anyone who's seen Bebop and Samurai Champloo know that he's a man who sort of prides himself in, the musicality of his direction, and it pays off in spades. The songs are all really cute and charming. He places a lot of emphasis on the sound direction, and there's a real sort of I don't want to say weight, but he puts a lot of care into where the characters are and how that has an effect on the way that they sound, which is really nice. It's euphonium tier sound direction, if you ask me. And we've gushed about the sound direction in that show on this very podcast time and time again. It's a really charming sort of show. I think the cast is very entertaining. The comedy can be a little hit and miss, but I think the drama is nice, and I don't know. I found myself pretty endeared with it from the get-go, and it's 2 cores, so the first core is done, and it's on break this week, so I didn't get to watch this week's episode, but I don't know what the fuck Netflix is gonna do with it. I don't know if they're gonna put it all on like when it finishes, or if they're gonna do it in halves, or you never fucking know with Netflix. It's fucking terrible. It's a travesty what they do with like their anime properties, because in Japan they put it on like right when it airs, but for some reason with America they're like, we need to wait until this is done so people can binge it, even though that's absolutely not the way that people typically consume anime, like in the seasons while they air. Like they're just so tone deaf. They do this with like Kakegurui and shit like that, and like Violet Evergarden had that problem too, and it's obscenely frustrating.
That's what turned you into a violent Evergarden.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Frank, is this a spin-off of All Noah Zero?
I've never seen All Noah Zero.
Why would you go there? What?
Because it takes place on Mars. I don't know.
That's not the only show that takes place on Mars.
Mars of Destruction. Wait, no, it didn't.
Mars of Destruction. Do not talk about Mars. No, we're not going there.
What's the bug show called again?
Terraformers.
Terraform Mars. That takes place on Mars.
Yeah, let's get Funk in here to talk about that. Where's he at?
Let's not. I don't want to hear about Terraformers.
9 out of 10. I'm gonna go the robot.
Okay.
Is that
Carol and Tuesday, glowing recommendation for me. Sarazanmai, not so much. Which is sad, because I wanted to like Sarazanmai a lot more than I ended up liking Sarazanmai, but it's a bit of a mess.
while we got you here, Frank? Do you want to rant about Netflix and Ava?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Jesus.
I want to hear this.
I fucking do. It's terrible. It should have fuckhead Dan Kanemitsu thinks that he can get away with when they bring a beloved property over to the goddamn States and mess with a perfectly good translation. And I was really looking forward to seeing like how they would take advantage of like some of these idiosyncrasies from the last translation, because there are some bits in there that I really wish that like they wouldn't keep. But you just got it all fucking wrong. First of all, like, why are you translating Sekuto as leftists? Like, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Like, he clearly wanted to parallel it with the Saurian gas attacks. And the translate that as leftists just makes absolutely no goddamn sense. First of all, that's obvious bias on Dan Kanemitsu's part, and it's miserable. Second of all, to say, like, to change that whole entire scene between Shinji and Kaoru in episode 24, like, you have absolutely no understanding of Shinji's relationship with Kaoru whatsoever. Like, so the way that you would translate that line normally is Kaoru says, like, human hearts are fragile like glass, especially yours. And, that's why you're deserving of love. And, Shinji is like, love, and Kaoru is like, in other words, I love you. Because, if you can rub 2 brain cells together, you can parallel it with fucking Fly Me to the Moon, which is the ending theme of the show. Oh,
Is it though? Is it anymore?
Oh, this is an absolutely volcanic Frank.
Jesus Christ.
Molding in process.
In other words, they changed it from "you're worthy of love" to Carl saying, "you're worthy of my grace." And it's like, first of all, he doesn't fucking talk like that. Why are you adding this like very human and like pompous sort of ego to Kaoru, who is meant to, be the one character in the show who symbolizes like unconditional love? Like, he's the Christ figure. He's supposed to represent, like, love. And, like, you know, he's like, you're worthy of my grace. And then not only that, like, you know, he's like, it means I like you. And like is just not the right way to translate Suki in that instance. And then for them to have it at the end of that episode, Shinji saying, like, you know, Carl said I was worthy of his grace. You know, no one's ever told me they like me before. Like, that's not true. You know, Shinji has been liked before in the series. He has friends. He has Toji and Kensuke. But the whole point is that Carl is the first one who's ever said that he loves him, and Shinji has to kill him with his own 2 hands. And that is directly what leads into the Human Instrumentality Project. That is the climax of the fucking show. And they miss the point because they have Shinji in episode 25 say, I'm forced to kill people I like. A very normal thing that people say, I know. Like, killing people I like. Like, say killing people I love. Like a normal thing. And then at the end of Evangelion, they recontextualize his scene with Asuka, where he says, like, help me, Asuka. It's no good if it isn't Asuka, to saying, like, I want to be together forever with you. Like, are you shitting me? Like, how are you translating this cry for help as a confession? You dumb sack of shit. Like, oh my god. It's, like, how do you miss the point this hard? It's unreal that you can botch this translation this much. In the year 2019, for the sake of being more quote-unquote accurate, you're gonna fucking take out, like, anything that you could possibly conceive as, like, homoerotic subtext, even though it's clearly meant to be, like, an unconditional love sort of scenario, more so than, like, Carl wants to put it in his butt. Like, it's, you know, like, these two characters clearly have, like, you know, or at least Carl has love for Shinji, and Shinji doesn't quite know how to feel about Carl, but he knows that it hurts when he has to kill him himself. And, like, it's just, how is this an official translation that was put out? Like, it boggles the mind. It completely boggles the mind. And to take out Fly Me to the Moon is just the icing on the cake. Because there are some wonderful scenes where they use, like, an instrumental of Fly Me to the Moon. Like when Misato is walking with Kaji, and, you know, she has to take her shoes off, and Kaji holds her shoes. And, you know, Misato goes on a big rant about how Kaji is, like her father. Which is a wonderfully, you know, momentous scene. Completely ruined by the fact that it now has absolutely no backing track at all. Like, there's no music in that scene whatsoever now. It's just silent. And, like, how do you do that in the year 2019? How do you ruin, like, one of the most beloved properties? And, like, did you really think no one was gonna notice or care? Like, this is, like, one of the most influential anime of all time. It changed the face of the fucking medium. And you really thought this was just gonna slide?
Yes.
The true mastermind behind the Netflix Evangelion dub revealed. Next time, Kenny's betrayal.
Oh, God.
Well, that's a shame.
Are we done?
I'm done ranting. I got off my chest what I needed to get off my chest. And that's...
Oh my God.
Sometimes you just gotta do it.
That was a wonderful segment, Frank.
No better place than the Luckycast.
Jesus Christ. He's like, please don't kill anybody, Frank.
Frank is harmless.
He's so mad.
So, Kenny,
What?
do you have any shows you want to talk about?
No.
No? Why do you think you're here?
Could you force me to, like, fucking be on here?
Do you have any old shows you want to rant about?
Any what shows?
Old shows?
Old shows? What are you talking about?
Oh my, never mind.
Are you talking
Matt-
about the shit? Are you talking about the shit I'm rewatching?
Matt, Collin, anything you want to talk about?
Yeah.
Well, there's still Yaiba, and
Talk
there's
about
still
Yaiba.
Shield Hero, and there's still Attack on Titan.
Do you have any preference?
Yaiba?
I guess we could start with Yaiba.
Let's start with Yaiba.
Wait, which one?
Kimetsu no Yaiba, which is Kimetsu all Raiba.
That was good. Coming to Toonami this fall, by the way.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah, they just announced it.
You gotta get that timely dub in, because obviously you've got a hit on your hands here.
Tell us about it, Collin.
Oh, you want me to tell you about it? Okay.
Well, you did read the manga.
I read the manga, kids. Yes, I've read the manga of Kimetsu all Raiba. I didn't mean to say the joke version. It just kind of popped up. So what we have here with Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer, is an out-of-the-park adaptation that I would probably put on par with something like, well, not quite Mob Psycho tier in terms of the upgrade and art direction, but it's pretty insane going from the manga potato people art to what the anime is doing. It's a show that starts out pretty atmospheric, almost like an action horror show. And some absolute genius put it this way, is that once Zenitsu and Inosuke get introduced, it kind of becomes the demon hunting Three Stooges, which is still very entertaining. And I still think it kind of keeps those sort of light horror elements to it, which make it really enjoyable, atmospherically, that is. And there's almost a interesting warmth to the whole thing, where the enemies that they fight are always pitiable. There's at the end of every fight, what we talk about, the flashback thing, right? But frequently in Yaiba, once an enemy is killed, or almost every time when an enemy is killed, they get a little flashback that humanizes them as they're dying. And the flashback acting as payoff is different from a flashback being introduced for payoff immediately afterward, which, by the way, that is also kind of an issue with the show going forward. That's kind of a result of, just weekly stuff. But at the same time, I always enjoy what's introduced, even if pacing-wise, I don't like how that was handled. You'll see that more going forward. Something that's almost kind of novel about the show when you think about it. Every single fight in this show is to the death.
Oh yeah, that aspect of it is great.
Yeah, it's absolutely it's really great. Especially
every single episode is just nonstop tension, balls to the wall, no
no hold bar.
Yeah.
It pushes the limits of believability sometimes, but I did really appreciate in this most recent arc where they kept stressing how fucking hurt he was. Even though realistically you could never fight on like a broken leg and broken ribs like that. But like they really belabored the point of like how fucking weak he was, but still was able to press on and do this fight. Mm-hmm. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, it's definitely enjoyable just how out of their depth the characters are compared to the demons, because the characters, I mean, obviously no one can actually move like the characters do in the show, but relatively speaking, the characters have no powers, and everything is just sort of metaphorical. All the visuals for their powers are just metaphorical.
Right.
Metaphorical lightning attack.
But they're fucking phenomenal animated metaphorical visuals. Holy shit.
The fact that it's CG is pretty impressive too.
Yes.
The juxtaposition of watching Yaiba to One Punch Man it's something else, let me tell you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really well integrated CG in this show, but not the character's model most of the time.
No, the character models aren't great looking CG.
But the fucking everything about that fucking fight in the tilting room was just like amazing.
Oh
yes. Oh my god, the everything about the direction there and how they handled the CG background,
like actual movie quality visuals going on right there.
Oh man, it was so good. I think one of the best parts is that all the lighting matches with the hand-drawn animation.
Right.
Always. That scene where you're hearing what is the name of the instrument that he's using? The funk we're here, he'd know.
What's it called?
The drum.
I feel really dumb because I just watched this, but yeah, I can't remember the name of it.
Little drummy hits. Anytime a little drum gonks, as the I guess camera that
it's not a taiko, is it?
No.
It's the best equivalent I can say. But as the shot is shifting around and rotating around Tanjiro, and you're just seeing the room shift over and over again. Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I want to say this real quick. Tanjiro might be one of my favorite shonen protagonists.
He's pretty good.
He's pretty good.
He's really great.
But you brought up that point before about the enemies and stuff. Like this, like there's a real humanity to this show that shonen shows of its like do not often have.
Oh yeah,
like he represents that so well.
Yeah, it's strange how often you can say that a character is nice, but there aren't a lot of main characters you'd really describe as kind.
Right.
And Tanjiro is probably what I'd describe as kind. And at the same time, despite having the biggest heart imaginable, he has absolutely no qualms about killing the living shit out of every demon.
Oh yeah, he's completely brutal, but he's like he is headstrong in his
he's not forgiving, but they do have his pity.
Right.
I feel like any other show would spend way too much time of him having like a moral quandary about doing that.
Yeah,
and keep going back to that.
Yeah,
whereas, like,
they would write a character they want to be a good person.
Yeah, and like they have him reflect on that, but just like it's enough that you understand his character and like what he's facing, but also that like he knows he has a job to do, and he just get to that, and the show always does.
Another thing I actually really liked about this, and this was probably a result of them just trying to avoid the axe as soon as possible, where they had to introduce a lot of plot points early on. But they introduced the main villain really quick in this show.
Oh, yeah.
You mean Michael Jackson?
Yeah, they introduced Michael Jackson, who has Hihi'd, our main character's little sister, into a demon. And he even kimonos a guy right in front of him.
Okay.
But it actually gives a really nice bar to set early on for what the heroes are meant to eventually overcome.
Mm-hmm.
So just setting your limits is really nice, I think. Setting your limits, obviously we can't see the full extent of his powers, but we know right off the bat how much stronger he is than anything else that he's fought before.
This might be a dumb comparison, but it reminds me of the Wind Waker.
Okay.
Which is how quickly Link meets Ganondorf in that game.
Oh, right.
Like,
right.
You know he's there, you know how strong he is, but you can't get to him yet.
Mm-hmm. And he dunks on you.
Yes, he does.
Mm-hmm. I do like... One thing that was kind of odd to me was, like, from the beginning of the show, they kind of give the impression that demons are like, just kind of mindless zombies. But then... all of a sudden, because they're like, oh, it's so shocking that Nezuko actually has humanity. But then it's like all these demons have humanity to some degree.
Well, yeah, they're intelligent, yeah, but
right.
They are mostly amoral because they gotta eat people.
Yeah.
The more people they eat, the more intelligent they generally get.
Right, which makes sense. It was just kind of like, that's one thing I'm kind of wondering is, are all demons just humans turned into demons, or are they not all that?
Yeah, I think they say that early on. I don't think I'm spoiling anything. Plus, even if I was, that's not really a big spoiler. That all all demons are just humans.
Okay.
Yeah. Muzan or his upper moons or just his moons in general, I guess, are the source of the other demons.
Gotcha.
Also, that for some reason the subs just choose to use the word Kizuki when describing Muzan's upper echelon, rather than just saying moon. And the hilarious thing is that at one point when they show the iris of Lil Drum Man's eye, the subs read Lower Moon 6.
Yeah.
So what do you want? This is not a criticism of the show. This is just a criticism of the subs.
Yeah.
Do you want to use moon, or do you just want to slap down Kizuki and not translate it? What's the point in using Kizuki? Kiss yourself, my man.
I do really like one thing I do like about this show in comparison to a lot of other shonen is like it's like just like how you say every fight is to the death, like it does not hold back in terms of just killing people. Like people die. People die like fucking crazy in this show.
That's a really good point, Matt, because I was thinking about the 3 demon brothers, or maybe they were one demon, I kind of forget. But the triplet demon, it would have been so easy
to save the girl.
For the mangaka to just write it that Tanjiro saved the girl. But no, she dies. she's just gone.
She's gone.
Yeah. And it's sad. The show has an air of sadness about just about everything.
Right. It's very, very melancholic about everything. Not just like the death.
It's never overwhelming though.
No, it's never.
But
it's
also
never like
wacky
over the top.
Man.
Also, wacky war man. Wacky Boar Man, and
you promised me Zenitsu would get better. I'm holding you to that.
What episode are you on?
I mean, I watched all of them. He was really cool when he was asleep, but like that was it so far.
Okay.
I think
he gets better. I'll probably discuss it.
One thing I don't like hate his character necessarily, because obviously there's gonna be something for him later. Like you wouldn't have a character like this who doesn't get better later. But like that's the entire point of a character like this. Yeah. But I do like how everybody in the show reacts to him the exact same way you would expect them to react to him.
Just visible disgust.
Just yeah. It's like that moment where it just shows that face of Tanjiro.
Oh my god, it just perfectly encapsulates like a combination of total confusion and disgust.
It's perfect. It's so
also Zenitsu's bird is cute.
Oh yeah.
It's a cute bird.
Cute demon sister.
Yeah.
Oh, that's another thing I really liked. I like how despite the fact that this whole show is basically an escort mission in a sense.
Oh yeah.
She's like Nezuko isn't just like a wet blanket or anything. She can kick ass if she wants to. She can, but I also appreciate the show also doesn't use her as a crutch to get Tanjiro out of a situation. No, she's not used as a crutch. She's more of a. I mean, honestly, she's more of a liability than anything. Like the part where she tries to kick the ball and it just breaks off her leg. But then I did like the part later when she had the kickball fight with the demon. That was fucking great. Against Six Arm Girl and Upvote Man. Yeah. Literally Reddit man.
The Upvote demon. He's got too much karma.
But yeah, it's a very, very creative show. All the demons have really interesting powers that aren't too wacky, and like the Upvote Man would be a little too wacky if it weren't for the fact that the only reason why we can see the arrows is because of the spell. Mm-hmm. The fact that they're invisible makes that a lot more easy to digest. But yeah, it's just a very, very entertaining show. Very well paced, good characters.
And again, it cannot be underscored enough how fucking gorgeous the show is.
Oh, it looks fabulous. Not even just like the general animation. The CG looks good when it's used for like the water effects and the lightning and all the different powers and stuff.
You know what the most amazing thing about this anime is? Like, it's such a small little detail, but it's like something no other show would do. When they had the guy with the Tengu mask talking, they animated his lower jaw, even though he wasn't showing his lips.
Yes,
like it would have been so easy to have no animation there because you could just get a free pass because you have no mouth movement. But they animated the jaw anyways. That's what they're doing with the money they're saving from all the fucking tax evasion. That's it's going to do his jaw right there.
And I also just like I really like just the general art style of the show too. Yeah, like the really sharp lines and like outlines and everything. It looks really nice.
Bold outlines, and then everyone's got these distinct features on their eyes. Everyone's got a different one.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Good job, Collin.
Oh, okay. We're just gonna end on the eye remark. All right.
Unless you guys had anything else to add.
He kind of deflates it a little bit, but hey, eyes.
Ufotable.
Right.
What was that?
What was that?
What? In Dexter's lab with the eyes? Come on, guys.
Oh.
Underwater Frank Romano?
It's not underwater.
All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
All right.
Hello, and welcome back again to the Luckycast. Frank has dipped, but we don't need him anyways to talk about this next show. Collin.
Yeah.
Inexplicably, I got you back into Shield Hero. Why don't you tell me about that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I had watched the first 4 episodes of Shield Hero, and I enjoyed them. I thought they were entirely serviceable. Mm-hmm. And then I watched about 3 more episodes, and I said, this is generic Isekai, and I just don't feel like giving it my time. So I dropped it. And then, weeks later, I found out that you were still watching the show, and that you were quite satisfied with the results. So I decided to pick it back up and see it through to the end. That's the story.
And were you...
So, Mike, what did you think of Tate the Shield Hero?
So, it's weird because I was at the exact same point you were after about the 7 episodes. Where it was like, this is kind of going nowhere and not very interesting. But I stuck with it because I was hoping for ultimately some kind of emotional resolution to the Shield Hero's story. I mean, obviously we weren't going to get a full conclusion because it's based on an ongoing light novel, but I was still hoping there'd be something interesting coming, so I kind of did what I normally don't do with these shows, and I kept going. And I wasn't too invested even up to the halfway point. But then when we get to the second core, I felt like it started to get its legs back, largely because it actually started expanding its world a bit. The whole thing about them just, like, kind of hating the Shield Hero for no reason at the start of the show was actually kind of extrapolated into a larger conspiracy of what this character represents and why a large portion of this world doesn't like him. And I was very happy they got into more of that instead of just being, we don't like the Shield Hero because he's lame because he only has a shield. And in addition, like, the scope of the world also greatly expanded, and raised questions that I had not really asked before but found interesting in retrospect, like, well, you don't really think of anything about, like, when they originally summoned all 4 heroes in the same place. Like, that's kind of what these shows do. But then it turns out, oh, these heroes were all supposed to be summoned by different countries, and the fact that they're not there is also part of a larger, grander conspiracy. which kind of made the world a lot richer to me, and kind of gave me more investment in this universe that they're trying to build. Like, it was genuinely good world building, so I stuck with that. And then you get to ultimately episode 21, which is, I feel like the. Have you watched the last 4 episodes after that, Collin? Have you finished this?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
Okay. Episode 21 is kind of like the emotional resolution to the show, and I found that thoroughly satisfying. Where he gets his comeuppance against the fucking people who wronged him at the very beginning of the show. The show could have quite honestly ended there, and I think it might have been better because I wasn't a big fan of that last arc. But how did you feel? What kind of got you to stick with this show instead of dropping it again?
I think on a base level. Sorry, by the way, if I sound like I'm inside of a toilet.
You're fine.
Okay, great. I had to relocate for sound reasons. But I think on a base level, the show works. Narratively, it has all the correct components to somewhat make sense. So it's easy to just sort of sit down and watch it and just sort of enjoy the escapism of it. And most fiction functions as some sort of escapist fantasy in some way. I just feel like with Shield Hero, a lot of it indulges the escapism before it really wants to tell the story for me.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a hand job where, yeah, I'm getting like the base level of pleasure, but it's not really what I want.
Mm-hmm.
You could afford to put a little bit more work into it.
Fucking finally, goddamn.
What?
Nothing.
Even Kenny's sick of Isekai just giving him hands.
No.
Kenny wants Sucky, goddammit.
No. I'm playing Fatal Bullet, my bad. Oh my god. Continue. I'm sorry.
Okay, alright. So, it just feels like the main character is never really accountable for the ills that befall him. There is a moment where they try to convince you that he is partially responsible for it, but really, if you observe the plot, it's not really the case. I mean, everyone around him is still a fucking moron.
That is true. And they drive that home, like, even further in the last arc.
Yeah, they try to say, oh, well, Mr. Shield Hero, you gotta adjust your attitude or nothing's ever gonna change. But frankly, it doesn't really seem like anyone else is gonna be willing to change. I mean, even the supposedly smart characters are fucking idiots.
It's weird because, like, he's already a competent character, so you don't really need to make the people around him stupid to make him look better. He's kind of already there, so.
Yeah, and that's what I mean by it's like it wants to do the fantasy before it wants to write the story.
Yeah.
Where, what was it? The sword hero. The sword hero is presumably smart, but I guess he just falls for everything and is also just an idiot.
He's very one-track minded.
Yeah,
I think that is his character.
It's just like people like zombie survival scenarios, right? Because they like the idea of being this pragmatic survivalist, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's fun, It's just that I wish these things felt more earned. I wish he was accountable for more of the things that screw up his life. And not necessarily screw up his life, but maybe just more accountable for the bumps in the road along the way. Because everyone who meets him, everyone who dislikes him is either evil, stupid, or misinformed.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And once they just talk to him for a little bit, it's like, oh, Shield Hero, you aight, dog. And I was talking to a friend. About this show because apparently this show is kind of popular outside of our each little circle jerk.
Relatively, yeah.
Yeah. And he just want to talk about how to raccoon girl is cute, how he wants a raccoon girl GF.
I think that honestly is a lot of people's takeaway from this show.
Yeah, you know what? If that's your takeaway, man, more power to you. You just want to see an underdog story with a raccoon girl GF. Shield Hero's gonna deliver. But if you're looking for something meatier, if you're looking for maybe not like full on ReZero kind of melodrama, but I'll just reference that as an example of a show with a flawed main character who goes through some shit that is his fault.
Mm-hmm.
You're not really gonna find it with Shield Hero.
Yeah.
Oh, also it does the classic, the immortal, the eternal. If you kill him, you'll be just like him. Every time that fucker shows up, that's a fucking treat.
Yeah.
Oh, also, from what I read, it sounds like they've made some compromises with the main character from what they were from the source material. Like they lightened him up a bit.
I could see that.
Yeah, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, like he has a certain amount of edge to him that I like, but I like probably the most compelling thing for me about his character, and I guess it's just because I like this kind of character, is that, like, yeah, he can come off as a bit of an edgelord, but he is also the one genuinely heroic character of the four heroes. Like, someone who is rough like that, but also like heroic when it counts. That's the stuff that kind of gets to me, and like that's by no means like original writing or anything, but that was kind of enough to endear me to his character. And you know, when you get to the fact that, like, yeah, he has this chance to fucking off the people who ruined his life, you know, he's still able to spin that in a way that's heroic but also kind of being an asshole. And it was just perfectly in character. And like I said, when you talk about like wanting to get the emotional resonance of the story right, like that is what hit to me. Like I wouldn't say overall this is a good show or anything, but like in terms of isekai, I am, like, probably as many people are, completely burned out by this genre because there's just too fucking many of them, and they all are kind of the same. But I felt
my
like
useless power is actually the best one.
Basically, yeah. But there are still ways you can craft a character that is more likable than others, or play into your gimmick better than others.
At least he is a character.
Yes, he is. Yeah. And you can't fault the show for anything. It's not that, but it is. Probably my biggest disappointment is with the show is that it wasn't a bit more than it was. Like, I wasn't expecting a ReZero going into this, but I still felt some of those vibes from that first arc. Like, oh shit, this has the potential to be something more than just a standard isekai story, which it largely is, with some bells and whistles here and there that kept me entertained. And I'm willing to at least accept that these days, because I typically won't even give most of these shows a chance because they all go for the same thing. So the fact that I was able to get enough out of this to be entertained and stick with it for 25 episodes, I'll take that.
Congratulations, Shield Hero. I think we're mostly on the same page with this show. It's just a matter of how much it resonates with us. Like, we're both acknowledging the show's merits and its hiccups. But yeah, just kind of a matter of how much it really appeals.
I did find it funny that the final bosses of this show were also isekai characters, because you have to have isekai inside of your isekai now to be different. I was actually very worried that they weren't going to bring this up, like the fact that he's fighting these characters who are fighting for a really genuine purpose, whereas he's just kind of fighting for himself largely. But they at least have that moment where he acknowledges, okay, there are people in this world I care about. I actually have something to fight for. I was worried they were not even going to hit that, but at least got that base level of getting the story right.
Yeah, so. It does. It does its job.
It does. Well, I guess that's about all we can say for it.
That's it.
The fact that you even picked it up again was shocking, to say the least.
Did you like my little image I made?
I did.
Thank you. I worked very hard on it.
Okay, so I did lie. There was another isekai show I watched this season.
Oh my gosh.
Which Kenny also watched, which is Isekai Quartet. Which is not a traditional isekai show. It's a comedy spin-off of 4 different isekai shows. Those being Konosuba, ReZero, Overlord, and I forget the Japanese title, but the English one is The Saga of Tanya the Evil. What is the Japanese name of it again? I forget.
It's
Yojo Senki.
fuck.
Yojo Senki. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You're welcome, guys.
Which was the only one of the 4 shows I had not watched, which apparently did not qualify me to watch this show at all, but I still did anyway because fuck you, Collin. I don't have to listen to your rules.
You're fired from the Luckycast. You watched Isekai Quartet without watching all 4 shows first.
The good thing is,
he's doing the same thing to you that did to me. He's just like, oh, you didn't watch Overlord.
Yeah. See, the thing is, though, I picked the right one not to watch because this show was directed by the director of Yojo Senki, who took great pains to tell the story in its base form in this show, because I assume he figured of the 4 shows, this would be the one that people watched the least, and he was right. So I at least got some kind of rundown of what that show was about in, like, the first episode of this show. This show was actually, like, maybe one of the biggest surprises of the year so far for me. Because normally these comedy spin-offs are not very good. Like, I very, very much remember watching Attack on Titan Junior High or whatever.
What?
There was a spin-off of Attack on Titan called Attack on Titan Junior High where they were all in junior high school. And even as someone who really liked Attack on Titan, I did not find that show very funny or interesting and couldn't.
It sounds fucking awful.
It also had jokes that spoiled the second season, which had not aired yet. So I guess I was glad that I did not finish it. But anyways, this was a completely original show, and I was thoroughly surprised at how well they got all of the characters from every show. Like, they kind of hit on the notes that you want them to hit. That they interact with opposite characters that you would expect them to interact with. Like Aqua has a very strong dislike for the Overlord crew because they're all undead. Like, there's a complete understanding of every character they're writing for, and it comes across in the humor. Like, pretty much all the jokes land. I was very surprised that I liked this show because I was expecting not to. And apparently it was so popular it's already getting a second season, and they're throwing in another franchise that they haven't announced yet. And I would not be shocked if it was Shield Hero.
Oh, it's almost certainly going to be Shield Hero.
Yeah, it's under the same label, so that'll be interesting when it happens. But what did you think about it, Kenny?
No, it's just like if you watch like all the original like series and like just like you would like really enjoy this show. Like it's just like you said, like with the way like the characters interact with each other, and like plus it's like cute as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really don't know what else to say about it. And it was just, I was kind of surprised it got greenlit like when I watched the last episode. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, pretty much cover everything.
If nothing else, and the thing that originally struck me when I was watching the first episode, that was like, okay, I'm kind of in, is they start the show off with the Konosuba characters bickering with each other like the Konosuba characters always do. And I was like, okay, I am always in the mood for more of this. Those characters are so good. I so much want to watch more of Konosuba, and like I guess we gotta wait for the fucking movie at this point. But it's like those characters are so entertaining all the fucking time that just if it was just these characters in a comedy spinoff, that would be just fine with me. So it's just
one thing that did stand out is like towards the very end when they did the like what was it like when they had that like class like field day thing,
the sports day thing.
Yeah, and like what's that character that Megumin is like a rival against?
Oh, Union?
Yeah, and she's just like by herself in her own class.
Yeah, it's like
fucking
they introduce they have the class of all the main characters, and they introduce a second class that's like of the side characters of all these stories, and then they introduce a third class that is just Union because of course they totally fucking understand the character.
Oh god. Yeah. I mean, it was just like it was all laugh like every episode for me. So I mean, yeah, one of the better ones this season.
Yes.
So
this is not something I was expecting of a silly comedy spin-off anime.
Yeah. I'm not like a fan of that like type of like animation either. So
yeah, it's I hate to call it flash animation, but it's like that very simple style, like barely animated, but you know it works for something like this.
Plus the ending theme, I don't know why, but I found that fucking catchy as hell.
It was very catchy. Yeah, I don't. Yeah,
So.
This kind of nailed everything about it. All right, let's get to the big one. Attack on Titan. All right. So one thing I think we can do is, since we didn't have a podcast last fall when the first part of season 3 aired, I think it'd be good to talk about that as well. So I know you went back and watched that too, right, Collin?
Yeah. Obviously.
Okay, so let's
skip it forward.
let's segment this into talking about the season 3 part 1 first. And season 3 part 1 of Attack on Titan was something that I was not looking forward to because I had read the manga after the second season aired, and this very much at that point was the part of the manga that I found thoroughly uninteresting. And apparently the author understood that too, because he was like, okay, when you adapt this, please make all these changes to it so you can effectively get my vision out there in a better manner. And part 1 of season 3 totally achieves that. Like, they take this whole arc, they condense it, they cut out a lot of the meaningless stuff, so they speed up the pacing, they get all the details in there, probably a bit too fast of a pace, honestly, but I found that whole thing way more interesting by shortening the pacing and also kind of putting it in an anime form. Like, there was so many little details of that I had just like kind of glossed over or not really consumed properly. Like, normally when I read manga, I just kind of absorb it. I don't always take in everything. So just to see it paced in these episodic format rather.
Episodic.
I meant to say episodes, but
don't make fun of him.
Episodic makes more sense. But
Shut
yes,
up,
I got way more out of watching the anime adaptation of that than I did reading the manga. Which I would say, you know, the manga is still good, and all the other parts of the manga that I read were, like, at least equal to the anime. But this is the one part of the series that was greatly boosted by turning it into an anime. How did you feel about that arc, Collin?
Well, I had heard a little bit about how he wanted things to be changed a little bit with the anime adaptation. And I didn't know it was such a drastic improvement. I haven't really read the manga. I'm starting to now, and I'll get into that later. But for a long time, and I guess it really is a long time, because it's been like 6 years since the first season aired or something. Yep. Yeah, a long time. I've liked Attack on Titan, but it's never really dug its claws into me. And with the second season, I felt like it was caught somewhere in between the sort of Titan survival story and the more shifter-focused story, and the political stuff maybe kind of seeping in there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of worried as to what the direction was going to be from then on. And then it kind of went, when I got to the third season, it kind of just immediately went full throttle on the Shadow War stuff. And I found that wholly enjoyable. It really feels like the series found not just found its footing, but evolved in an unexpected way that worked somehow against the odds. Because typically I'd say, and I might get into this when we get to the part two, it feels like Attack on Titan progressively just shed a lot of the things that initially made it popular. And that's a worrisome thing to watch happen, only for it to somehow stick the landing and feel like the series matured. You know, a lot of people call Attack on Titan edgy, right? In a dismissive way. And now I feel like the series is actually mature.
Yes. They're like... I would say the character of Eren himself is very evocative of that.
Yeah.
To see... And I'll get into this more like in the second part, but to see like how far he came from just being a one-note shonen protagonist, I want to kill all the Titans, to where he ends up by the end of this third season is just like nothing short of phenomenal. And the series is reflective of that. And I think probably the biggest, well, at least one of the biggest takeaways for me is the third season is that like this is a series that has like an author who clearly intended for a lot of the reveals that he gets to later on from the beginning. If not entirely planned out, at least he knew like where he wanted to get to. And he knew a lot of what he wanted these characters to be. And it was really a struggle, especially in that second season. Like we got some big reveals, like who the like Colossal and the fucking other Titan. The Armor Titan. Like, their reveals, like, that was the big takeaway from the second season. But there was still a lot of, like, you've raised so many fucking interesting questions. When are we gonna get some payoffs? And you start getting that in the first part of the third season, and you get pretty much everything else by the end of the second part.
You get everything in this season.
Even things that, like, I don't think the show explicitly spelled out, but you can kind of, you know, work through why. Like, why do Titans eat people? I don't think the show ever explicitly says why, but there's kind of like an understanding of they have an instinctual.
Wait, I thought they did like recognize that though. But did they say because they wanted to be like normal again or whatever?
I forget if the show explicitly spells that out or not, but like. At the very least, that is the implication. And that was a question, like, I had not, like, when you, at the start of the season, or the series, you have all these, like, so many unknowns about what the Titans are. Like, they know what they do and kind of how they act, but they don't know any of the answers to why. Why are Titans, basically. And I never thought for a second, like, he would answer the question, why do they eat people? Like, of course they eat people. That's just, and then any other story, that's just what the villain does. They do bad things. In this case, it's eating people, right? But there is just so much more to that. And just like every little detail in this show ends up having an answer, and they're all just so fulfilling.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's great that you bring up the character of Eren, because I feel like up until this point, it hasn't really felt like, besides maybe like the Ymir stuff, the show hasn't really felt like it's about characters. It's always kind of felt like the world they live in.
Yes.
That was kind of the main draw of it. And as season 3 progresses, you get a feel for a lot more of the characters. Even someone like Erwin, who's just been Mr. Authority figure man for most of this. You get to kind of peel back the layers of his character more. And he's much more of a self-interested character than he initially led on. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just a lot of growth overall. And I really love, I'm not sure if I'm jumping around too much here.
That's fine.
Can we, I mean, we're just going to talk about season 3 in general, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I really love how intelligent characters are portrayed in this. Because nobody's necessarily a super genius. They're just practically intelligent. When they're sort of assessing the, how do I say this? Shigan Shina? Is that the name of the district?
Close enough, I think.
What is it?
I actually don't know off the top of my head.
They're sort of they're trying to assess where exactly Bertolt and Reiner are.
Yes.
Yeah, and they think, oh, well, it's got to be inside the walls. It's like that's just practical, out of the box thinking, or even just Zeke choosing to throw Bertolt inside of a barrel into the battlefield and just nuke everyone with him.
Mm-hmm.
Or how like the Colossal Titan isn't necessarily just an instant win button. It doesn't have actually a lot of practical combat use.
Yeah. Outside
of just being really big.
It is really big.
And
now he's dead.
Yeah. People they throw Bertolt into Big Armin, and as Bertolt dies, he says, I'll just tell you what I ever told them. Go fuck yourself, and then he gets crushed. Okay, that's another thing though. That's almost indicative of how much the series has changed. Because think of the Colossal Titan. Think of what that means to this show. Mm-hmm. The Colossal Titan is Attack on Titan. That's what people think of when they think of this show.
Yep.
And now it's gone. Or at least Bertolt's version of it is gone forever. That shows either a shocking amount of confidence in your material or an amazing lack of self-awareness. And still, I feel like the series is better for it.
Yes, and I will say, probably one of my favorite moments in the third season overall, maybe the whole series, is just giving Eren, who's like I talked about before, like he's just about killing all Titans. He kills 2 Titans in the entire fucking series, and the second one is they give him the fucking kill on the Colossal Titan. Like he was even going all the way back to the fucking first season. He was the one who blindly jumped into fighting the Colossal Titan when no one else would. And just to bring that all back around and give him that fucking glory kill was just like perfect.
Yeah. All great.
It's just like knowing how to pay off every little aspect of this story.
Yeah. Even the more tangential characters, like John and Connie and Sasha, those 3, they're not necessarily relevant, but they're not useless characters. They're not just sideline cheerleaders. They have a practical use in the plot.
They give them their moments.
Yeah, which is nice. You were right about that payoff, Steve. That's well,
speaking of payoff, do you want to talk about the basement?
Wow.
Was the basement worth it, Collin?
It was absolutely. I mean, I'm not sure how many people feel about this. I know it can be mixed because this is a series completely changing what it is.
Mm-hmm.
This
is a series. This is a series that, 59 episodes in and whatever 80, 90 chapters is just the prologue. We're now getting to the real story after this. Is just insane to think about.
I can barely wrap my head around just how much buildup that had. Only for it's not just like some twist. It's so much more than that. Like the world is completely different. Mm-hmm. That there is a world outside the walls. What they are exactly. What other people think of them, that there are just normal people that aren't Titans out there.
Like I always kind of figured, like even going all the way back, there has to be something outside those walls than just Titans. But just the explanation, and it's a big fucking explanation. It's a lot to take in. And I remember I had to reread those chapters like 2 or 3 times just to kind of take it all in. So I can only imagine what it was like not knowing that stuff and watching those 2 episodes for the first time and just having to take all that in because it's so much.
And it becomes a pretty interesting story about identity, basically, like national identity, and what sort of what can happen to people when they get radicalized for it.
Mm-hmm. Or if you're just someone with no brain, you can just immediately jump to criticizing the show for using Holocaust imagery, as if as if you think this is somehow a fascist ideology this author is putting forward. I fucking hate that shit so much. It started like way before this, but obviously with it finally being animated, like it's getting out there more.
Never draw from real life tragedy ever.
Right. So the craziest thing about even all that, do you remember when I was on Skype with you and Funk, and I was telling you after I read the manga about all this shit, and then I just brought up the fact, oh hey, the show, the setting of the show is Madagascar, and it was just like the funniest shit. And I find out years later that's based on a real thing where the Nazis had a plan to send the Jews to Madagascar. Like, holy shit. Like, this is all so thought out and researched. It's
That's
amazing.
Fucking great. I mean, hearing about where the plot goes out of context is the craziest ride in the world.
Yes. But it's like, it's even more so, like, in context. Like, getting all of those details out, and then you just you throw some potential time travel nonsense. I mean, it's not time travel, but it was just like such an interesting hook of just like a character saying names from the future. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Just so much to wrap around.
The scope of the entire story and the world is so much bigger than what you understood it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And also, you were the true Shingeki no Kyojin all along.
One of the best fucking title drops ever, which does not translate to English at all.
Unfortunately, it does not. But my god, that is absolutely the best title drop I've ever seen in my entire life. Its name is...
What did I miss? I'm sorry, I had to pee really, really bad.
Oh, we're talking about the amazing title drop from Shingeki no Kyojin.
Oh, you mean Attack Titan?
Yes.
Okay. Did we already talk about like how it's showing like people driving cars and shit? And there's
okay.
How did you feel about that, Kenny? Because you I had already told Collin some of the spoilers. You had no context for any of this, so.
Like I was watching. I was just like, what the fuck? I was just like, for real? I was just like, we're like fucking like turn of the 20th century here.
Yeah.
It's just like I was just like, wow. Like I really didn't know what to think of it. I was just like, this is actually kind of like I thought it was kind of cool. Like it's just like honestly, I still haven't watched the last episode. I haven't had time. So, but
the last episode is one of the best low key last episodes I've ever seen. Like,
yeah. And I know there's like another season.
Yeah,
there's a lot. More. There's still a lot left to go.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. They have an absolute turbo Kino scene. That's probably what you were referring to earlier, Steve. With Eren and that crippled Titan.
Yes.
And that just puts into context how much his character has grown.
Like if you would have told someone back when the first season aired, yeah, there's gonna be an episode one day where Eren gives mercy to a Titan. Like they would have never believed you because that just wasn't his character. But like it's like when you see the journey he's gone through, just to be able to have that empathy for something that was once human, that he can see beyond it just being a Titan, is just so amazing.
Yeah, and you're hit with that pang of sadness at the end when they get to the ocean, and all he can think about is who he needs to kill next.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It's just tragic. It's like overwhelmingly tragic.
Did Did you guys cover the the thing about like the fascism?
We touched on it a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. Look, I don't think. Obviously, the show is not endorsing fascism.
No, but I'm just saying it's like it's like kind of what it is though, because they mark them like I don't know.
I mean, it's showing what people can become when they're pushed to a certain point.
Truly, they were the real monsters.
And it's not something. It's not something to be applauded. It's just something that is. It's something that happens. It's something that will happen in the future.
It's something that did happen. And it's like some people are like weirdly opposed to bringing it up, yet also want everyone to remember this. And like a lot of the way in which we remember things is putting it in different contexts. So it's just it frustrates me, especially because these people just like have not either read or watched this shit, or I have a very limited understanding of it.
Yeah.
I think so. I remember reading the manga, and like this part of the manga was my favorite. Like the essentially the part where season 3 part 2 begins, and it is such a weird disparate between the first half of this part 2 and the second half, where you just have this huge fucking battle that's also like a build up of everything that's come before you get to the payoff of everything else. But like I was just so fucking happy that everyone got their fucking moment in that last battle. Like I don't like it feels like so long ago, but even like that, just the fucking sequence of Levi going in on the Beast Titan was just so fucking glorious.
Dude, that was fucking
cathartic.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Like
so much happens in the season that it's like it's easy to forget about like moments like that were huge at the time, because every episode is like a big fucking deal.
And probably one of the best parts is when he kills me.
Oh yeah! Oh my god!
By the way,
no one's gonna get it with me. You guys.
By the way, speaking of which, I may have missed something. I don't know, but this might be this is a nitpick on my part. Was Kenny mentioned at all before like the moment he showed up? Was he hinted at?
I
thought he was like earlier. Like didn't like Levi have like a flashback like sequence or some shit like
man, it's been a long time since I watched the first season, so
it would have to be in the first or second.
I'm pretty sure it's brought up like that, like someone like trained him and it was Kenny. That sounds so funny.
They did not use his name back then, but like they may have referred to him.
I'm pretty sure it at least shows like a screenshot of him or some bullshit.
I don't think he would have been designed by that point. Maybe, I don't know.
No.
No. Also, wait. Speaking of that final battle that we just mentioned, I think that really recaptured the hopelessness that was in the Trost battle.
Yes.
That I felt like was waning more and more as we focused more on the shifters.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of like oppressive feeling of all the rocks just raining down on them and everyone breaking down, freaking out. And then they all just get slaughtered except for Flock. Wait, here's another nitpick. What the fuck is going on with Flock's hair? Thank God he fixed that.
He had a rough day.
Yeah.
How did you feel? This is a big debate among people, which maybe it's deserving of it or not, but how did you feel about the choice between Erwin and Armin?
Oh, well, first and foremost, I just love that choice was presented at all.
Yes.
Man, I don't know. Like, I still think about it. Like, ever since I watched that episode, like, I'm just like, well, I mean, Armin's like a good tactician. Like, but like,
I just love that they brought up everything that Armin had done that I had not really ever thought about. Like, he had done all these important things over the series that you don't really think about. But then you contextualize it in that moment. It's like, holy shit, he's done a lot.
Yeah, he's been a very on a surface level. Like Erwin or Erwin, however I pronounce his name, Erwin just seems like the better pick, right? Everything about it is he is like the symbol of the Survey Corps. He's the one who everyone rallies behind, and he also just literally got them all killed.
Well, he did like a fucking blitzkrieg and just charged like everyone into fucking death.
Yeah,
but, I mean.
Yeah, and like I said when we started talking about this, is that I love how they peel back the layers on that character right before he's in that situation, just to give Levi that shred of doubt, and eventually he just makes the choice to let him go, almost out of sympathy for him.
God, even think about his character in general, like in the season 3 part 1, they get into his backstory with his father a bit. But then you realize, like, even before that, I don't know if it was the first or second season, just some offhand comment that someone made about the government getting rid of people, and one of the comments is about Erwin's father.
Wow.
It's like, it's all fucking there. It's ridiculous.
I've got more nitpicks.
Go ahead. I mean, it's not a perfect show, so...
So
it's one of the better shows.
Yeah. Speaking of that moment where the choice happens and we get Big Armin, if you notice earlier, Reiner loses his head. You may have noticed this, and he regrows his head. But when Reiner regrows his head, we see him inside the Titan, and Reiner is bald. He has no hair. All right. Okay, we're all on the same page.
I know
here.
where you're going with this.
Okay. All right. When Armin becomes Charmin and he falls and he starts coughing, Armin has no hair. All right? But we've just established that being a Titan doesn't necessarily heal your hair. But when Birdie wakes up to see Big Armin approaching him, he's got the big coconut head. And Big Coconut Armin eats Bert, and then when they pull Armin out of Big Coconut Armin, he's still Little Coconut Armin.
Whoa. Are you calling him Bert?
Yeah, Birdie.
Listen, the hair is his one defining feature. You kind of have to have it, or else people won't know he's Armin.
Yeah, I guess if just a bald Titan started approaching Bert, they're like, maybe it's Levi. Or no, wait, sorry, maybe it's Erwin.
Oh my god.
And then James Joyce and his Titan serum. When Historia's dad, apparently, if you just lick the Titan serum, you become bigger than the colossal Titan. That was oddly convenient for him. I really have liked someone to ask a question about that one. Also, James Joyce was carrying just armor Titan serum in his bag. Mm-hmm. That was immensely convenient.
It was a little convenient.
Yeah. There was... Oh, yeah, right. I just mentioned this. So Reiner loses his head. And this people blow this moment way out of proportion. I do think it is a minor problem, but I don't think it's a major one. People call it an ass pull.
This is about the consciousness.
This is about Reiner transferring his consciousness into his body. Now,
that was fucking retarded.
A giant picture frame almost fell over. Hold on, I'm in a very awkward position.
Oh no. Wait.
Okay. Oh, good. Okay.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm all right. We almost had glass shatter everywhere, though.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Did it get jarred loose by that earthquake?
That was, what was it, 6.4, 6.6? It went for 2 minutes. It was fun. Fun earthquake.
It was fun.
Fun earthquake, boys. Anyway, yes, Reiner transfers his consciousness into his body, and yes, this is kind of dumb. It is also glossed over And I think the way you could present this information much better. There's not a lot of situations where you could introduce this ability without it being like critically important to saving somebody's life. I can't really imagine a context for it to feel natural, like where Eren learns to shift around organs in his body. Like, for what reason would you find?
So it's not something you just drop in casual conversation.
Yeah. So it's like, what other situation would we introduce this extremely convenient ability? It's in a situation where you're not really questioning if Reiner's going to make it through that. So if it was a situation where, oh, Reiner's definitely dead, and then they pull out the I transferred my consciousness into the rest of my body thing, then that would be awful. But as it is, it's just dumb, but not awful. I really wish that there was some other conversation about it later, where they say, one character needs to ask, wait, he can do that? Rather than Reiner and Bertolt saying, good thing we can do that, right? It sounds a lot more natural with the former dialogue, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And what's my last nitpick? Ymir. I can't fully wrap my head around her death.
Is she dead?
Oh, she's dead.
Is she dead?
Wait, who?
Steve, she's dead.
Is she dead?
Steve. Oh, Steve, I read the manga.
Wait, have you read it farther than I have?
How far have you read it?
I stopped at like chapter 99 or
Please don't fucking spoil anything for me, please.
We won't, but...
I'm not spoiling anything because the show tells you that she's dead. She's dead, and what I find so strange about this is that she went with Bertolt and Reiner after saving them. I understand that the way that they justify it is that she has a debt of gratitude to them after she killed their friend and she feels guilt over that. Mm-hmm. But by giving Marley the Jaw Titan, she is threatening Historia's life. It just doesn't make sense to me at all that she would do that. And I take major. I feel like this is the one thing that I don't think is a nitpick. I think this is actually a pretty major problem for me that I can't find proper justification for this.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that. I don't know whether later events recontextualize it or anything, but
I'm not fully through the manga, but it doesn't seem like it.
Okay. Unless
that's just oh, it's the paths, it's the will of the Titans. You need to die, Ymir. Kiss yourself, my man.
God, there was a couple details I did want to gloat about.
You wanted to gloat?
Yeah, because I came up with them. No,
okay,
they were just
right.
good.
You one was Attack on Titan.
So one had to do with the fucking Titan that ate Eren's mom, mm-hmm. Which is a fucking amazing reveal that it ends up being his father's
so far in advance.
Former wife.
Yeah.
But not only that, but then to add that line of dialogue in the flashback when she's getting turned into a Titan, that even after that happens, she'll still seek him out, which explains why she ended up at his fucking house to eat his mother in the first place. Like, a little detail that you didn't need, but is there anyways, just to recontextualize everything to make it so much better. Like, oh my god. I also really appreciated, there was like a small flashback they threw in the last episode about his father, when he goes to get the founding Titan power. You're up until that point, you're kind of believing he just cut this monster who just went there to kill a bunch of kids and steal that power. And then recontextualize it. No, he was actually trying to fucking talk it out with them, despite everything that he's been through, despite the fact that he knows what's on the line, despite the fact that he's about to fucking die, which explains why he had to do it at that point in time. That he could still, like, okay, I'm still trying to fucking reason with you people about this. Like, just a good humanizing moment for the character of his father.
You could have just dabbed in and eaten them all.
Yes. His dad had a hard life.
You know what?
And
Yeah,
also, just the fucking parallels between the fact that he fucked up his first son to getting it right with Eren and just stuff like that. It's just like, oh my god, the writing is just so good.
You know what he should have done?
What's that?
He should have kept James Joyce alive, and then turned him into like a 4-meter Titan, but then made like a giant baby harness. You know, like the ones that you wear, like with the baby on your torso, right? And so you could just keep your little rod Rice attached to your chest, so you can use the coordinate anytime you want.
I don't think you get to choose what kind of Titan people turn into.
No, you can. The most kinographic man in existence, Gross, specifically said that he was going to turn some guy into a 4-meter Titan.
I guess so, yeah.
So I guess what your dosage might affect your Titan size, unless you just lick it a little, in which case...
I also just assumed it was just a genetic thing. Like, if you had fucked up genetics, you became a fucked up Titan or something like that.
What, you mean like the big nose guy?
Yeah. Also, oh my god, I didn't even get this when I was reading the manga, but like, all the fucking Titans that they run into way back in the first season in that battle,
yeah,
and they show the origins of them in the flashback. Beardman, fucking Kaon Titan.
You guys are killing me, please.
Oh my god, there's just so much.
So, bravo, Isayama-san.
Bravo. Holy shit. Great show.
Are we done?
Oh, I mean, is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
I don't think there is anything else I want to talk about.
Amine.
We can talk about... What's that, Matt?
No, I said no.
Oh. I'm gonna say we can... What do you want to recommend from this season? The summer season.
Fruits Basket. Fire Force.
If you,
Something about a mommy GF.
Make sure to watch that show about the 4 girls stranded on an island.
Which one is this?
Hey, I got it downloaded. Can't wait to watch
Sonen
it.
Deska.
And
It's,
no
there's some interesting shit that happens in that first episode. I'll just leave it at that. Also the show that's just like that aired today. That's just Have Sex, the anime.
Oh.
Which actually
Have sex as in literal have sex, or have sex as in the meme phrase that you throw at incels?
I mean, it's about like 5 high school girls in a literature club all contemplating having sex.
Oh, okay, so in the literal sense.
Yes.
Not like something that you just respond to people with on 4chan.
Have you memorized the tier list? What do you call that?
No. like the Rochambeau chart?
Yeah.
Shampoo.
I think the only thing that defeats have sex is dilate, but everything defeats dilate.
Jesus.
Don't forget about Takagi-san.
We won't. I hope they do the scene that they didn't do last season. That they
I sure hope
done.
so too.
Bye.
Okay.
All right, I think that's it.
I think are we done?
Yeah. Have a good anime, people.
Anime.
Anime.
Have a good anime?
Yeah. It's a good sign off, right? Have good anime.
That's so funny. Oh,
all right.
God. Yeah, it was fun.
It was fun. Say goodbye.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys later.
What the hell? Get out of here.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.